Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Most people are still unaware of the story of the Queen of Sheba and the mysteries surrounding her life in antiquity. Which kingdom was she queen of? What was her origin? What was her involvement and relationship with the ancient King Solomon of Israel? In this video, I will address all these topics, including her origin, the locality where she possibly reigned and lived, and her relationship with King Solomon. Therefore, I ask you to leave your likes, comments, and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy this content from the channel. The mystery of the Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba is known in ancient Hebrew and Phoenician as Malkat Saba, in Arabic as Malikat Saba, and in Ethiopian Guizi as Nixata Saba. She is a figure first mentioned in the Aramaic Hebrew Bible. In the original story, the Queen of Sheba brings a caravan of valuable and precious gifts to the Israelite King Solomon. The character of the Queen of Sheba underwent extensive elaboration in Jewish, Islamic, Yemeni, or South Arabian, and ancient African Ethiopian traditions, becoming one of the most widespread and fertile cycles of legends in Western Asia and Eastern Africa. The name of the Queen of Sheba is not mentioned in biblical texts, only her title, Queen of Sheba. She went to the city of Jerusalem with a great entourage, bringing camels loaded with spices, much gold, and precious stones. According to the first book of Kings, chapter 10, verse 2, there never was such an abundance of spices. In the book of Chronicles, chapter 9, verses 1 to 9, the biblical account relates that the Queen of Sheba came to test Solomon with hard questions and riddles, which Solomon answered satisfactorily. They exchanged gifts, and after that, she returned to her land. The use of the term "gidit," or riddles, in the English translation of the first book of Kings, chapter 10, verse 1, is a borrowing from the Aramaic language. The form of the word points to a phonetic change that did not occur before the 6th century BC, indicating a late origin for the text. The kingdom of Sheba was well known in the classical world, and its country was called Arabia Felix. Around the mid-1st millennium BC, the Sabaean tribes or simply the Sabaean people, who also apparently inhabited Ethiopia and Eritrea, lived in the region that now comprises Yemen. There is an interesting curiosity in the Holy Scriptures. There exists a Sheba of the kingdom of Cush, descended from Ham, one of Ham's sons. There is a son, a nation, and a region literally named Sheba. In the lineage of Shem, there is also a son of Shem or one of his descendants, who was the ancestor of an ancient Semitic people that inhabited ancient South Arabia, specifically Yemen. The Semitic Sabaeans were those who lived in Yemen, while the Cushite Sabaeans were the Sabaeans who inhabited the region that now comprises Ethiopia, in East Africa. Many say there was a mixture, or at least an alliance, between the ancient kingdoms of Sheba. There is even a discussion about the origin of the Queen of Sheba herself, whether she was from Sheba of Cush or Sheba of Shem. The debate about the origin of the Queen of Sheba is so intense that it starts with her original name. According to Ethiopian Africans, she was called Makeda, while the South Arabs, specifically from the region of Yemen, claimed that her name was Bilqis. The visit of the Queen of Sheba may have been a commercial mission. The early trade of South Arabia with Mesopotamia, involving wood and spices transported by camels, is well documented in the early 9th century BC and may have begun in the early 10th century BC. A recent theory or interpretation suggests that the awful inscription in Jerusalem was written in the Sabaean language and that the text offers evidence of commercial connections between ancient South Arabia and the Kingdom of Judah during the 10th century BC, or 3,000 years ago. The ancient Sabaean temple of Awam, known in folklore as Merom, the sanctuary of Bilqis, has recently been excavated by archaeologists. However, so far, no evidence of the Queen of Sheba has been found in the many inscriptions discovered at the site. Another Sabaean temple is the Baran Temple, also known as Arash Bilqis or Throne of Bilqis. The Baran Temple is adjacent to the Awam Temple and was also dedicated to the ancient Sabaean deity called Al-Maka, which has similarities with the non-polytheistic cult of the Middle East, being a different cult. Soon, I will make a video about the cults dedicated to a single god by the Semites for all of you. The connection between the Baran Temple and Sheba has not yet been established archaeologically. Regarding the Ethiopian version of the legend, the most extensive version appears in the Kabra Nagast, Glory of Kings, translated from Arabic in 1322. According to this tradition, Menelik I is seen as the son of King Solomon Makeda, the Ethiopian name for the Queen of Sheba. Makeda is the daughter of the man who destroyed the legendary serpent King Arwe, from whom the Ethiopian dynasty claims descent to this day. Based on the New Testament, specifically in the Gospels of Matthew, Matthew 12 verse 42, and Luke, Luke 11 verse 31, the Queen of the South is interpreted as being the Queen of Ethiopia. In those times, King Solomon sought traders from all over the world to buy materials for the construction of the ancient temple. Among them was Tamrin, a great merchant of Queen Makeda of Ethiopia. Upon returning to Ethiopia, Tamrin told the queen about the wonders he saw in Jerusalem, the wisdom and generosity of King Solomon, the Jewish or Israelite king. Impressed, the queen decided to visit him and was warmly received at the palace, where she received great gifts daily. During her stay, Solomon and Makeda, the Queen of Sheba, shared wisdom and knowledge with each other. Some accounts suggest that Solomon spoke with great wisdom about spiritual and divine matters, through his proverbs and wisdom given by God. It is even said that the Queen of Sheba, impressed, converted to Judaism before returning to her land. According to some sources, Queen Makeda belonged to the dynasty established by Za-Basai Angabo in 1370 BC. The family originally chose her brother, Prince Nurad, to rule Aksum, but his premature death resulted in Makeda ascending the throne. She apparently ruled the Ethiopian kingdom for more than 50 years. According to the list of kings of Ethiopia from 1922, Makeda reigned from 1013 to 982 BC, according to the Ethiopian calendar. In the Ethiopian Book of Aksum, Makeda is credited as the founder of a new capital in Azeba. Edward Ullendorf suggests that Makeda may be a variation of Candace, a name or title used by several Ethiopian queens of Meroe or Seba. Candace was the name of the Ethiopian queen whose eunuch was converted to Christianity by Philip the Evangelist, as reported in Acts 8 verse 27, around 30 AD. In the 14th century, in the Ethiopian version of the Alexander Romance, Alexander the Great of Macedonia, known as Mekadon in Ethiopian, is said to have encountered a Queen Candake of Nubia. The tradition that the Queen of Sheba, mentioned in the Bible, was a ruler of Ethiopia who visited King Solomon in Jerusalem, is repeated in the 1st century account of Josephus, who identifies this visitor as a queen of Egypt and Ethiopia. In the Quran, in Surah 27, verses 20 to 44, we find the fascinating narrative of the Queen of Sheba and her visit to King Solomon. According to the Islamic holy text, the queen, known for her intelligence and skillful governance over her people, hears of Solomon's wisdom and greatness and decides to undertake a journey to Jerusalem to test his abilities. Upon her arrival, she is received with magnificence that exceeds her expectations. Surprised by the grandeur of the palace and the organization of Solomon's kingdom, she initially mistakes the polished floor of the palace for water, causing her to lift her skirts to avoid getting her feet wet. Solomon, noticing her confusion, informs her that the floor is actually polished glass. Impressed by his wisdom and discernment, the queen recognizes King Solomon's greatness and God's blessing upon him. She presents noble gifts and exchanges words of respect and admiration with Solomon, acknowledging the divinely granted wisdom he possesses. The visit of the Queen of Sheba is not merely a diplomatic encounter but also an example of the pursuit of wisdom and recognition of God's blessings. The story highlights not only the importance of intelligence and discernment but also humility before the greatness of God and His chosen ones. According to the historian Josephus in his work Antiquities, the Queen of Sheba was considered the ruler not only of Egypt but also of Ethiopia. Josephus suggests that her name, Makeda, might derive from an ancient Egyptian term, indicating a connection with Egypt. He also reports that Cambyses conquered the capital of Ethiopia, changing its name from Seba to Meroe. He states that the Queen of Sheba originated from this region and was initially known as Seba before becoming associated with Meroe, a city in the Ethiopian region. Josephus also notes a possible affinity between the word Seba and the title of Ethiopian kings, such as Sabako. The story of the Queen of Sheba, her involvement with King Solomon, and other narratives still hold many mysteries. These are the insights I share in this video. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Please leave your likes and comments on what you think of the Queen of Sheba. If you've made it this far, suggest other characters or peoples you would like to see videos about. God bless, and see you soon.